Hello and welcome to the cake tip. Today we're going to be making hedgehog slice. To begin with, you're going to need to take yourself a square, shallow 8-inch tin, and you're going to need to line this with parchment baking paper and make sure that it comes up the edges of the tin so that it's easy to lift out once the slice has set. Let's get baking. So the first ingredients we're going to be working with are natural almonds and natural walnuts. These are actually going to replace the biscuits within our hedgehog slice. So they're whole at the moment, so you'll need a food processor to break these up. Now these won't need processing very much, just enough to be able to break them up. So grab a hold of your food processor bowl. If you have the Thermomix, this is going to take about a second on a speed 7. If you're using a normal food processor, about 30 seconds until they come together and they look like a little bit dusty and a little bit broken up. This is exactly how we want them to look. A little bit of chunks, a little bit of dust, and that's perfect. You're now going to pop these nuts into another bowl so that we can put them aside until we need them. Make sure you scrape all of the nuts out of your food processor. We will be using this in the mix later on. Now you're going to be creating your ganache part of the ingredients. You're going to need some double or thickened cream for this, and you will also need some sugar-free dark chocolate broken up into chunks so that it easily combines when it's put with the cream. You're then going to place that into the microwave, or you can use a double boiler if you want to and just stir it at the same time. So let's pop our chocolates into our cream. We don't need to stir this in. We literally need to put this into the microwave as it is for roughly 2 minutes. Whilst that's in there, the next ingredients we're going to need is some soft butter, cut up into chunks so that it easily goes into the mix, and some sugar-free maple syrup. It is important that it's sugar-free, otherwise it won't be keto, this recipe. As you can see now, the cream has come out the microwave and it's nice and warm and it's started to melt our chocolate. So grab yourself a spatula and begin to stir the chocolate in. It does take a little bit of time to combine, but do not try to rush it, otherwise it'll end up a little bit lumpy. So keep going until it's fully come together. I will put a list of all of the ingredients used in this recipe in the description underneath the video to make it nice and easy for you to shop for it when you want to make this recipe. When you're happy that the cream and the chocolate have come together, we're then going to move on to adding our sugar-free maple syrup. This is to give it a little bit of sweetness, because when you're using sugar-free chocolate, it can be a little bit bitter. Scrape it all into the bowl, and then you're just going to stir it and continue stirring to combine. It shouldn't change the texture of the ganache at all. You'll know when your ganache is perfect because it'll become a lot smoother and a lot glossier to use. That's when we know that we're ready to now take some of our ganache out of the bowl and remove it into another bowl. This is so that we can create the top of our hedgehog slice. So we're going to take roughly 1 cup out of the ganache and place it into another bowl to be able to sit to the side until we've completed the bottom section of the slice. When you're finished putting it into the other bowl, make sure that you use your spatula to scrape off all the excess from your cup so that you don't lose any of your ganache. In the same bowl, we're now going to be adding our butter. So grab a hold of your butter and pop it into your ganache. Now it's important that your ganache is still warm at this point to be able to melt the butter. If you find that it isn't warm, then just pop it back into the microwave or on your double boiler and just heat it very gently so that it's warm enough to be able to combine the butter. Keep stirring until you no longer have any lumps of butter within your ganache. As you can see, this is not quite ready yet. We still have a lump of butter in it, so we need to keep stirring before we can add any further ingredients. Once all the butter is melted and it's fully combined into the ganache, we can move on to adding our next ingredients. So the next ingredients we're going to be using is a tablespoon of white chia seeds. If you don't have white, that's perfectly fine. You can use black chia seeds. It doesn't really make much difference. Pop those in. Now we're going to add some cocoa or cacao powder to the mix. It's entirely up to you which you choose to use. Now we can add our reserved almonds and walnuts that we processed earlier. And the last ingredient is some desiccated coconut. Now this is unsweetened desiccated coconut. Once again, this is important because it's keto. Pop all of that in, then you're going to grab your spatula again and just going to stir to combine it until it all comes together. Once you're happy all of the ingredients has been incorporated into the mix, you're going to need to grab a hold of your tin, and we're now going to pop this mix into the center of the tin to begin with. Don't worry about spreading it out to the sides. We'll do this once all of the mix is in the tin together. Now you've poured all of your mix into the tin, grab a hold of a palette knife, preferably one with a bend on it, and you're now going to smooth it all the way into the corners. Like I said in previous videos, this is really important that you get it right into the corners to begin with, so that you end up with a nice even base. Now the base is nice and smooth and even, we need to place this into the refrigerator for a couple of hours to set. It needs to be nice and firm to the touch before you remove it from the fridge so that it's ready to take the top layer. As you can see, this is nice and firm to the touch. So we're now ready to add our ganache to the top. If you find that your ganache has become slightly thick and you don't think that it's going to easily spread across the top of the base, then you can pop this back into the double boiler or into the microwave just to warm up slightly. It needs to be pretty runny to be able to spread it across evenly and not end up with it being lumpy. Because remember, your base is quite cold to begin with, which means that the ganache will want to set quite quickly whilst it's on top of the base. So you will need to work fairly quickly when you're doing this as well. Once all of your ganache is over the top, spread it carefully to the corners of the tin. Once you're happy that it's gone all the way to the corners of the tin and it seems pretty even, a little trick you can do to make sure that it looks nice and flat and glossy is grab a hold of your tin and give it a good whack on the side and make sure that it becomes nice and level. One bang of the tin should be plenty to be able to make it nice and level. So as you can see, it's nice and level. It's now ready to be able to go into the fridge overnight to set before you cut it up into squares or into slices. Thanks for watching this video, and please remember to subscribe for future videos.